is my wonderful co-host who happens to be Fahim Bangesh. Assalamu alaikum Fahim, and how are you doing on this hot morning in Islamabad?
Walaikum assalam, and it's good to hear. How are you doing on this particular lovely morning? Because it's not a lovely morning weather-wise. Otherwise it is, obviously. We should never call the mornings bad mornings. Just the weather is hot, I agree. So yeah, it's still, it's very good. The internal weather is very good and the external weather is not, but we're getting along with it, trying for them to get along with each other. But anyway, Hajra, I'm pretty excited about today's program. Can you answer me why?
Yeah, I think because now we have brought upon someone and a guest, a worthy guest who has a very intense and an intellectual in-depth insight into the particularly the situation of the country, and we are going to further develop the conversation. And he's an expert in this field, not just academically but also practically. He's been working in the field and he can illuminate and provide his in-depth insights into the situation, particularly when we talk about the economic situation of the country. And I think we need to have these sort of discussions. Absolutely. When we talk about SDGs, when we talk about the sustainable reform, sustainable growth, that too in a manner that it should be able to provide for the bustling population while at the same time preserving our resources. And also when we talk about sustainable growth, sustainable development, we also need to factor in the public-private partnership, because this is very much important aspect into it. And
interestingly, Hajra, we have been hearing this term public-private partnership, but we've never actually gone in depth and detail of this particular terminology. And today we thought of delving deep into it and, of course, keeping in mind all the problems that the country is going through. So yes, without further ado, I think we must introduce our guest for today. We have with us Mr. Salman Qaisrani Saab. He happens to be a technical and motivational speaker. He has had very good positions, key positions in the oil sector and transport sector, and we will be talking to him in depth. Qaisrani Saab, Assalamu alaikum and welcome to World This Morning.
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
Right, and we are really glad that you have joined us with your in-depth and insightful discussion and analysis of what is going on within our country, and specifically when we talk about the economic reforms. So particularly when we talk about the economic reforms, this term, this notion, a lot has been written on it. Academically, there have been discussions going on. In the popular discussion, in the popular discourses, there have been a lot of conversations. But being someone who is associated with the economics of the country, and you are particularly a businessman, so how do you see the economic situation of the country developing, and what are your insights, and where are the gaps that you feel that needs to be filled in?
Hajra, I think the crunch and the brief of your question is resolving Pakistan's economic crunch.
Yeah.
And that is the cornerstone of your question. We have to strategically look into the aspect in the context of global economic growth. During the fiscal year 2022 and 2023, it was 4.4%. And if we look into the growth of our neighboring country, India, that was 7.2%. Whereas our nominal GDP dropped from $374 billion US to $340 billion US during the same tenure. This has caused a serious economic recession in the country, and that has resulted into opting for IMF loans,
right,
and to opt for laid down IMF terms and conditions. And that has resulted into massive devaluation of Pak rupees, increase in inflation, increase in interest rate, and some erratic behavior of Pakistan's stock exchange, which is unexplainable under such situations. So the answer is revamping of economic policies. That is a must.
That's true.
And it is based on three principles. Number one is avoiding depth-based investments. It's very important, because depth-based investment is not a grant, it's not an aid. You have to look into the terms and conditions of this investment, and the cost of implementation of this investment is very important. And number two is guarding Pakistan's economic assets. This is also very important in the current scenario.
Right.
And number three, it must be very clear that the infrastructure requirement, infrastructure growth, agriculture growth, and service sector growth is directly proportional to public-private partnership. So the answer to your question is revamping of economic policies on these three principles.
Right, and also, sir, we are often hearing the term privatization these days. And like you said, the government-owned entities are the assets which should not be totally and completely privatized. Could you shed some light on privatization and as compared to the public-private partnership, and how can these two compare with each other? And secondly, what should be the model in Pakistan right now in the current economic situation?
Actually, Fahim, I'm not against privatization, to be very honest. My statement was to guard Pakistan's economic assets.
Right.
If they can be guarded through privatization, this can be one aspect. But I'm more supportive of corporatization and public-private partnership, because these are the first steps. If we adapt these two steps, then if they are workable, then that is the priority, because you are luring in your own investors and your international investors also in this process. But if it is not working at any stage of time, then you can go for privatization also.
Also, sir, we have heard our government representatives talking about bringing in investment or investors from different friendly countries. They've been talking to other countries' representatives as well regarding this, the finance ministers, etc. Now, is it possible that public-private partnership can perhaps enhance investment from inside the country and from outside?
Fahim, public-private partnership can not only enhance the investment, but it can also reduce the cost of investment. It's a very important point. Because in PPP, the risk of project completion, timelines, quality, and operations is on the private sector. And when the risk is mitigated, then the cost of investment is lower, on the lower side, and investors are attracted, number one. Number two, the efficiency of the private sector is very important. It enhances the value of the project.
Right.
And number three, the depth is backed by cash flows. It is not based on the credit worthiness of government organization. So it is backed by cash flows, and which are regular cash flows in public-private partnership. So you can not only enhance the investment, but you can also reduce the cost of investment.
Right, and so when we had the discussion before the show started, and you sent your very insightful and in-depth analysis of the situation of what is going on, so you particularly focused on reforming or revamping the agriculture sector and particularly working on it. And yes, Pakistan's economy is agrarian based, but nowadays it is shifting and focusing more on the service-based economy. So we've seen that, you know, there's so many people who are earning from the social media, and we've also seen within a neighboring country that how there is particularly a Silicon Valley in that particular area where they're providing their services to the US and they're earning a lot of money, right? So what is your particular insight when we talk about the service-based economy versus the agriculture? Obviously, you cannot deny the importance of agriculture and particularly the farmers who are investing in that. So how would you suggest and compare and contrast two situations?
Hajra, this is a very important and very relevant question which you have placed. You know, for developing countries like ours, we cannot go for mega infrastructure projects right now.
Of course, of course.
We have to build success stories, and then we can move towards mega infrastructure projects. So
Taking
my
baby steps,
philosophy
perhaps.
is that we should go for small infrastructure projects, and we should concentrate on service sector. Service sector means education,
Okay.
health, IT, communication, and sustainable agriculture, valuable crops.
Okay.
the entire world, if we see the the layout of World Association for Public-Private Partnership Professionals, and the way they have expressed the PPP projects to be in line with ESG principles, that is environmental, social and governance principle, this is the key, that you should invest the public and the private money into the service and agriculture sectors. And these are the sectors such as health, education, as I have told earlier, are still untapped. And there is very less competition. And the amount of earnings is a win-win situation for both public and the private parties.
Right, and we've also seen, particularly when you talked about the IT sector, and because it's a very interesting aspect, and particularly when we talk about the digital century, the digital era, 21st century, we've seen that YouTube, Pakistan is the fastest growing market for the YouTube, and we've seen that Google is very eager to open its offices here in Pakistan. It wants to tap into a younger population, our target audiences, which is particularly residing in Pakistan. So when you talk about the IT reforms, when you talk about revamping that sector, and we have seen without proper Silicon Valley, how much Pakistani people are particularly able to tap into that sector, right? And with a little bit of the government push, I think we will be able to do much better than we are doing right now. So what are some of the gaps that you see in the IT sector? How can they be addressed? Because there were rumors that PayPal is going to invest into the Pakistan. It is coming to Pakistan. And if PayPal comes to Pakistan, then I think the freelancing market, which is one of the biggest market in Pakistan, they are going to get benefit from that, right? So how do you suggest the reform?
As long as you're not going to make the market conducive for the local and the international investors, whether it is IT field or any other field, you cannot tap the investors. So the best way is to make the current market conducive for investment. And to make the market conducive for investment, as I've already said, the public-private partnership is the only way.
Yes, that's
because
true.
the PSDP fundings cannot go for it.
True.
Right.
Cannot afford to go for it.
Yes, that's
That
very
is the right word. And I'm making once again a sweeping statement that public-private partnership is the only way out, whether it is service sector, it is IT sector, or it is agriculture sector, or it is infrastructure on mega scale or on smaller scale.
Now, also, Qaisrani Sahab, when we look at the youth of the country, right, we see a lot of depression, a lot of hopelessness, and they don't really see a good future for themselves when they're, we know the universities are churning out students on, a biannual basis, right? But the students who are coming out, do they have enough know-how of the market, A, and B, if they don't have enough know-how, since you happen to also be a motivational speaker, are you in touch with university students to tell them exactly what the market is all about, and where would the hurdles be as far as getting out of their comfort zone is concerned and making an investment is concerned in the market? Do you talk about that as well with the students?
Fahim, this is a very interesting topic as far as my motivational speaking is concerned. In Pakistan, every year 5 lakh students are graduating. They can be engineering graduates, they can be law graduates, medical graduates, English, Urdu, Arabic, Farsi, blah, blah, blah. Out of which 40% are right now jobless, in between the age of 21 to 25. And remaining who are in job, their average salary is ranging, I'm talking of average salary, 25 to 50,000. Because our mindset is to do a job after graduating. We don't have a mindset of doing our own business.
Exactly.
Whenever we talk of business, the first question comes, where is the money?
Yes.
I assure you that to start a business, money is not required. Idea is required. A conducive idea is required, which is based on the God-gifted qualities which the God has given to you. In Sura E Al Isra, it is clearly defined that every human being has been given a quality which makes him preferred and preferable over others. We spent all our lives but couldn't find the quality which God has given to us. If we correlate that quality with our business idea, sky is the limit. I can give you 101 examples. J.K. Rowling, Colonel Sanders, Steve Jobs, none of them was rich by birth. The only thing they had was an idea which they converged with their business plan, and they succeeded. I have designed specifically a psychometric test for this purpose,
Right.
which tells you how to find out that idea. It is not at all a test or a procedure to be a businessman or an entrepreneur. It is a test to find out your inbuilt quality, the idea which can be converted into a business. So that is a very interesting workshop which I have conducted in Pakistan Engineering Council, and I would be conducting it in various universities, because my target market is a graduate student, graduate in any subject, who can read Dawn newspaper and who's enthusiastic in his life, and he has no money. This is my target market, and I'll teach him how to find out his inbuilt God-gifted qualities.
You know, I particularly ask this question because I've come across different people who say either you are business-minded or you're not business-minded, and perhaps to do a business you need to be very, very shrewd, you need to be very, very sharp, you need to be street smart, and if you're even a little bit lax, you perhaps cannot do business, or you cannot even venture into that.
Saim, I don't agree with this.
Okay, that's
This is not at all a problem. The real problem, I'm again saying, is to find out your inbuilt God-gifted quality and then to correlate it with your present job also. But if you correlate it with your present job, then the top position must be your target. If you correlate it with your business, then I assure you that that inbuilt God-gifted quality will take you to the heights which you cannot even imagine right now.
Right, and sir, because of the paucity of the time, so let's quickly touch upon a very interesting aspect of your organization, which is you're working on the street children particularly, and you have particularly catered to the segment of the street children. Obviously, they're abused on the streets and they're mentally
Challenged.
they're challenged. So why particularly, if you want to tap into the humanity sector, the human service sector, so why particularly you ventured into this area, and what sparked your enthusiasm to work for the street children?
Hajra, the street children who are mentally able, they are abused, but they survive by doing odd jobs. But the mentally challenged children, their shelf life is not more than 6 months to 11 months. And their treatment is very expensive.
I see.
In Pakistan, there is no institution where there is a medical college,
Right.
there is a teaching hospital, and a residential facility for mentally challenged homeless street children. So this is my motivation, and Salman Qaisrani Foundation is working on this. But whenever you talk of foundation, they say that he's asking for some donations. We don't accept donations.
Interesting.
That's lovely.
We develop our own business lines, and we develop business lines for various organizations, and whatever the profit is, it goes to the Salman Qaisrani Foundation.
That's amazing, sir, and it's such a pity that we're a bit pressed for time, but we tried our level best that we should touch upon each and every aspect, and perhaps in the near future we could do a whole program regarding your suggestions to the higher authorities as far as the economic situation of the country is concerned. But for now, sir, thank you very much for joining in and making contribution, a valuable contribution to our program, and inshallah, hopefully we will have you again, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for coming.